For today's independent practice, we are going to continue to review theme. In class, we took a look at a character that we all know and love, Elsa. We read and listened to the song Let It Go. The lyrics in the song tell a story. We were able to identify Elsa's problem, her solution, how she changed from the beginning of the story to the end, and how she was feeling in the beginning of the story and in the end. When we are able to identify each of these things, especially when a character changes, we know that there is a theme. What did Elsa learn? What is the theme of the story? Those are very common questions that we ask ourselves after reading a fiction story. So let's take a look at some possible answers. Let's look at number 1. Acceptance. Well, that definitely connects with what the lyrics of the song were about, but acceptance is only one word, and I know that a theme needs to be a complete sentence. I tend to ask myself, what about acceptance? And when I need to ask myself that question, it becomes clear that that is not a theme. Number 1 is a topic. So I'm going to drag and drop the X. Let's look at number 2. Elsa was afraid to be herself, but realized she needed to accept who she was to be happy and free. Well, I definitely learned something about Elsa from reading that sentence, but I know that themes can never be specific, and they should never include the character's name or specific details from the story. So that is not a theme. Let's look at number 3. Elsa learned to accept who she was. Again, I see that Elsa's name is included in the sentence. I know that I can never say the character's name in a theme. So I know that number 3 cannot be the theme. Let's look at number 4. Accept who you are. I learned from reading that sentence, and I don't see Elsa's name included or details from the story. So I know that number 4 must be the theme. Let's look at another example. Failing. Well, that's only one word, so I know that that must be a topic. That's not a theme. If I have to ask myself, well, what about failing? Then I know that that is definitely not a theme. Let's look at number 2. The pup wanted to be a guide dog, but he failed and he had to leave school. I learned something about the pup, but I didn't learn a life lesson because the pup's name was included in the sentence, so I know that that cannot be a theme. Let's look at number 3. The pup learned that he should never give up, even though he failed. Again, the pup's name is included in the statement, so I know that that cannot be a theme. Let's look at number 4. Just because you fail doesn't mean you shouldn't try again. I learned something from reading that sentence, and it doesn't include the character's name or specific details from the story. That means it is a theme. All right. Now let's take a look at something else that we've been learning. We know that when there's a problem in the story, we identify that with a red circle. When there's a problem, there is always going to be a solution. We identify a solution in a story with a blue triangle. The character is going to work the entire story to try and solve their problem. Eventually, when their problem is solved, we might see a shift in the character, a change in the character. We identify this character change by using a green star. A character's feelings may change from the beginning of the story to the end. They may feel sad in the beginning of the story and excited at the end. Who a character is, also known as their character trait, can also change. A character may be greedy in the beginning of the story, and then they may learn from their problem and having to solve it that they shouldn't be that way any longer. And now they've become caring. Feelings and traits can change in a story. So we must make sure that we're reading carefully to identify how the character is changing. Once I see that character change, I know that there is a theme to that story. The tricky part is figuring it out. For today's assignment, we're going to look at some of the readings that we did yesterday, because I want our focus to be to identify the change that occurred in the character. You're going to notice that the character's problem, solution, and change are all identified. This will help you. Let's take a look at the first question. I notice that it's the same story. I also notice that I have a word bank over here of feelings. This lets me know that the character's feelings must change at some point in the story. But it's my job to figure out how she was feeling in the beginning and how she was feeling in the end. Sometimes stories can have more than one theme. The way that we say something or word something or write a sentence for a theme doesn't always have to be exactly the same for everyone. So I wanted to show you that there are two ways of stating this particular theme. The more you practice, the better you will become. Or someone might say, you should never give up. After reading this task card, and now that I know the theme, I'm going to answer these two side questions. Type how the character felt in the beginning of the story. I'm going to follow the purple arrow to the box that says beginning and click until I see a black blinking line. Once I see that line, I know that I'm now able to type. I can use the word bank to type the feeling that Jan was feeling in the beginning of the story. I noticed that Jan tried to read a book, but she could not do it. Jan was very upset and she needed help badly. I know that Jan was not feeling very good in the beginning of the story, so let's see which one of my words would fit it best. Happy? No. Scared? No. Excited? No. Angry? Maybe. Upset? Definitely maybe. Jan didn't throw anything. She didn't scream. So I don't think that angry would make sense. I think just upset would be a better pick. So now I'm going to type the word upset in the box. Now let's take a look at how she felt in the end. I'm going to look at the green to see that change. She could do it. Jan was so proud of herself. Well, I know that being proud of yourself is a really good thing. So let's take a look at some of our choices in our word bank box. Angry wouldn't make sense. Upset wouldn't make sense. And scared wouldn't make sense. Happy or excited definitely would. I do notice that there's an exclamation point here, so I'm going to decide to choose excited. I'm going to click until I see the black blinking line, and type the word excited. I can see a clear change in the character from the beginning of the story to the end. You are going to now have to complete the next 2 stories. Notice that on this story, you will need to determine how the character's traits changed from the beginning of the story to the end. Once you are done completing these 2 task cards, you will then move on to the writing portion of this assignment. We have been learning subject and predicates in order to form a complete sentence. The red is going to be asking you the question, what is the theme? We've been practicing restating the question to make it into a sentence. So that part is actually done for you. The theme is, you're going to type the theme inside the box. But remember, this has already been done for you. So either you need to remember the theme or just click back to the same story that matches it, where the theme has been listed. Once you type the theme into the box, you're going to move into the next box, which is blue. This is where we like to describe something about the subject. Normally, the subject is a person, it could be a place, it could be a thing. In this case, the subject is the theme. And we just told you what the theme is, so now in the blue box, we need to now provide the reasons. And how do you know this? I know this because, and this is where you're going to type how the character has changed. I know this because Jan was upset in the beginning of the story. She couldn't read. But in the end, Jan was excited because now she was able to. You don't have to word it that way. You can word it however you would like, just as long as that you're showing me the change in the beginning to the end. Take your time. This can be a little tricky. But don't worry, we just want to see how well you can do this. And if you're struggling, that's okay, because we're going to go over it. Okay, good luck.